Lonesome Lands Podcast, Lonesome Report, July 23rd, 2025. Dog days of summer, fair
hmm
week. I just weighed in my calves this morning, or Sagey's calves this morning, my daughter's. So we got all week of fair. And you know what somebody said this morning? They said, "Hey, I listened to your podcast. Guy working at the scale house."
Cool.
Believe that?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe it.
All right, let's get into it. 1 week ago today,
hmm
I was driving home from South Dakota, which is crazy. It's the amount of stuff that has happened in the last week, and I have
That
not.
did go
This might be the
fast.
first time I've sat down in this office since then. Sorry to everybody that's
Wow.
emailed, but I am getting tons of merch orders out of nowhere. I don't know where all that comes from, but I'm working on it. We'll get them shipped out here today or tomorrow.
Okay.
But yes, and you were in. Where were you talking? What county?
I spoke in Hugo, Colorado at the Colorado Independent Cattle Growers Annual Convention, and it was a humdinger of a convention. It was really good.
All right. I still spoke at the South Dakota Stock Growers. Um, so I'll just talk a little bit about. I had my whole speech all written out, kind of, and I was going to get into the climate stuff mainly, is what I was going to talk about. Then, as I was driving out there, I like had a realization that everything I'm talking about, because we've talked about that the methane digester and the carbon market and carbon credits and how that thing only works this big feed yard, which I've been told. I'll correct something or I'll just say something. A lot of people have, or some people have said when he says we played this video last 2 weeks, and the lady asked about Black Shirt Feed Yards, which is the largest feed yard in the country. She asked, "Will this project work without the carbon market?" He says, "Absolutely not." So people have said the project is not the entire feed yard. The project is just a methane digester project, which either way, I mean, I guess it does make a difference, but that didn't have that big of a effect or impact on what I was saying out there. Um, but I just thought I'd bring that up
Okay.
just to be as transparent and
Listen, you can take all the carbon and all the methane stuff out of it, and I still say,
oh
how in the
yeah.
world can we produce cattle on cement? How can they stay structurally sound, especially with as heavy as they're getting them now? It just does not make sense to me.
Well,
But I'm not.
they call he calls it RCC, so it's rolled something concrete. Which I think is a little different. I mean, I haven't looked it up structurally how hard it might be softer. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Um, but the whole thing in what we've talked about last couple of weeks is this methane, the carbon market and the tax credits for the methane digesters, it was extended in this big, beautiful bill. And that's our issue with it, because what that does is it just allows the big to continue to get bigger.
Right.
Your local family feeders or your small family owned cattle feeders are not buying or not able to install a methane digester. They're not able to pave all of their pens, which you apparently have to do to make this all work. And so what it does is it just gives an extra advantage to the big feed yards, which will allow them to continue to expand and allow the little guy to continue to go away.
That's right.
So anyway, I was talking about on my way out there, all
Mhm.
this climate stuff I'm thinking about, and I realized what I've been talking about for the last, I don't know, almost 2 years now with this climate deal. I've kind of ignored the carbon market because I see it as complete and total BS, and I don't see how a market can be created out of that. But as I'm driving out there, it's like the whole carbon market is based on reducing greenhouse gas emissions and verifying it. And what we talked about for the past couple of years is USDA's goal with Climate Smart Commodity Project was to verify the reductions in carbon emissions in every sector of agriculture in the US. So I almost feel stupid when I realize it's like, oh, they're just creating this carbon market. They're
Yeah.
building. They're building the whole way up of, and so the entire thing of the whole reason we have a Food Ag Climate Alliance, right?
Hmm.
We've talked a lot about that with Farm Bureau and the Nature Conservancy, these environmental wacko groups, and the NCBA, National Cattlemen's Beef Association, and Farm Bureau. All these ag groups have just bought all in on this climate deal. And the reason that is because when they get told that agriculture is the biggest polluter in the country or in the world, they agree with it because they have the most to gain through a carbon market because they have the most carbon, the best ability to reduce carbon, I guess, because they have the most of it or they're producing the most of it. And so that was kind of what happened to me last week. And so I've got the speech up on YouTube. I'll
And it
link to
is
it.
an excellent speech. You did a fantastic job.
Imagine if I'd had more than a few hours to get ready.
Well, but that's just Jim Mundorf in
Yeah.
his element,
Sound
you
like my
know.
wife. But yeah, so I had the beginning and the end kind of all written out, but it's a lot of that middle stuff I just stuck in there. And
I listened to it 3 times, and I loved it.
you
I thought
might
you
be
did
my
a
number one fan.
well. I thought you did a great job. I wanted to understand exactly what you were saying and where you're coming from, and since I forgot, but it was super super good. And
Yeah,
I'm
I
proud of
told
you because you went up there and drove hard and fast to do your deal, and that was a good
yeah.
deal.
Yeah, we had a softball game the night before. Got up, drove 7 hours, got out there around 3 o'clock, and had to speak around six, I think, 6:30,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah,
But the one thing about with the podcast and everything, South Dakota has been awesome to us, and pretty much everybody I met out there. There was one guy I can't, I wish I knew his name because he's a vet. And he was telling me how he talked to you about Pope Leo and I can't remember what it all was. But he said he didn't remember me. He acted like he didn't know me. And then later on he goes, "Oh, I listen to you all the time." So yeah, there's a lot of
he
people.
did come up to me and talk to me at the RCAF convention about
The
the
Pope.
Pope and Catholicism and how it's all interwoven. And I'm like, I was okay.
Yeah. I need
So
to remember.
I
Maybe
guess I
he'll
need to study that more. I don't know.
yeah, maybe he'll well, it was something about it was property rights. And how
That's
and the
correct.
family, how the original
That's
the
correct.
family was the original owner, and it was all about property rights. Yeah. But anyway, I mean, I met a ton of awesome people out there, and on there we're all like, we're big
How many
fans.
people were there, do you think?
I don't know, a couple hundred.
Good.
I mean, I'm not good at guessing a lot. I mean, it was a
Yeah.
lot. It was full,
Yeah.
and for a state organization, they're one of the best, if not the best,
Yeah, I would
state
say
cattlemen's
so.
organization.
I would say so. They
But
have a
like
lot of
all
very active
associations and
members.
organizations, they have their, is
What?
their convention. So they had their little meeting and some people want to do one thing, some people want to do another. It's interesting.
Little drama?
Yeah. Like all associations, right?
Correct.
I mean, that's what I've heard with everything. And Shad spoke in Colorado. War
I
on Beef
did.
presentation is the
I
same one.
did. I I I put a little more to it, and yeah, basically the same one.
We'll
They
link to
had a
that too. We got the
we
RCAF one.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll put that
Um
in there.
they had the Colorado Independent Cattle Growers Convention at Hugo, Colorado on Saturday. Friday night, they had a ranch tour of the Jolly Ranch, which is south of Hugo. A long generational ranch. Cody Jolly is the man at the helm now. Very good operation. Very, very liberty-minded people. And America First people. They had over 80 people at that ranch tour, which is just phenomenal. Very good. They fed them out there and everything. And then the next day, they had the business meeting and such in town. I spoke there on the war on beef, and that is a heavy hitting presentation. And we actually had 5 state legislators there. That was exciting. One of them was a Boulder Democrat who interned at the United Nations.
Oh, I bet they
And
loved your speech,
I
huh?
bet they loved that. So it was a woman, and she did not talk to me afterwards, but
Did
I
you try to
did
talk to her?
no, I had people talking to me, but I did call the president, Harold Unwin, that evening, and I said, "How did that turn out?" And he goes, "She stayed for 100% of the convention, and she said her perspective is wholly different on agriculture because of that convention."
Well, there you go.
She said, "I learned so much." And I don't know that she was an American, but I do know she's a state legislator, and she pushes the climate change. And she smiled at me. So I guess it was okay. Bill Bullard was there. And then
Oh,
Todd Ingley, our new brand board CEO, he was there. He had a good representation. So it was fun. And I had to get back on the road because I had a 700-mile drive with my son back home. And so here we are.
I just woke up the North Dakota convention last year, or yeah, I can't remember. It was last winter, and Andy Green was there with USDA, and I spent a ton of time in my presentation trashing USDA because of the Climate Smart program. Like I
Yeah.
got into that and all that, and then I went up to him after I made a beeline for him after. And he was receptive. He was like,
Yeah.
"Yeah, I mean, he knows. I mean, he worked at USDA and he heard the MMRV constantly, and that's what I was there saying. Like, measure, monitor, report, verify. That's all they care
Yep.
about." And he was like, "Yeah, yeah, you know."
Well, Andy
He's not a real
Green's pretty.
combative person.
He's a
And
real
neither was
pretty
I. I
nice
wasn't
guy.
combative about it. I was just like, "What do you think?" I wanted to hear what he had to say because he's a
Yeah.
USDA guy and I was talking about USDA.
Sure. Sure. He's a pretty nice guy though.
Yeah, yeah, he's a real nice guy. Makes me wonder. What's it, if he's got an ulterior motive? But he's a I mean, I guess he'd be a bureaucrat, right? I don't know what he's doing now.
I'm not sure I would call him a bureaucrat, but I
Didn't he
guess
work in USDA for a long time?
yeah.
Hmm, there you go.
Okay, so did you see this deal in Kansas? Let's talk about this deal in
Oh
Kansas
yeah, the
real quick.
checkoff. County fair
Yeah.
season.
So Steve Stratford, a good friend of ours, um, posted a picture of the county fair in compliance with the beef checkoff, right? They had a little card. These kids that are selling their beeves at their county fair had to fill out this checkoff card and make sure they paid their checkoff.
Was it for
And
the fair? Because I thought I looked like, it- so it was for the state. So that went out to every fair in the state.
I don't know that.
All right. Let me see.
I don't know.
I'll
But I think he made a great point. He said, how greedy and sorry do you have to be to take the time and effort to print a card and send out to make sure 4-H Youth Project get charged $1 per head? This is a new low for a sorry checkoff program that needs revamped to work and equitable who pays. It seriously makes me ill and embarrassed that these people are part of our business. Local businesses line up to support these kids and donate thousands upon thousands of dollars, and the checkoff won't even do without their $1 ahead. Dumb and sick. And furthermore, most of the time I like hearing different opinions on things, but on this, if you don't agree and share my outrage, then please unfriend me and lose my phone number, which I thought was really really good. But here's the deal. What he said in this, you have local businesses line up to support these kids and donate thousands upon thousands, and the checkoff won't do without their $1 a head. I think that is a very important point to make. In my family, we highly support our local sales, not only in Colorado, but here in Texas too. We think it's a very important attribute, and it's a great time for these kids to learn about production agriculture on an independent level. What he said here was, excuse me, that all of these businesses get together and they donate thousands and thousands of their dollars, and the beef checkoff can't even go without $1. Unbelievable.
well, and also one thing you skipped a couple words he had in there. I think. So this is a card. It says, please indicate your preference below by checking the appropriate box. Premium only sale. So this is County Fair Beef Checkoff Collections. Premium only sale, which is what you said you have, right?
That's
They,
right. That means they
it's just a
sell at the sale
donation.
and it's a donation.
You keep the animal.
Correct.
But then it says ownership changes during sale and remittance is due, which means whoever buys the animal either gets the animal or like at our fair we have a packer come through, he puts a bid on, he just pays a carcass price for everything and we all get that per pound price and then the premiums on top of
Which is
that. So
what
they have
that
an
would be
auction.
called the floor. That would be
Yeah.
so he buys the floor, and then whatever's on top of that is the premium.
Right. And that goes straight to the 4-H'er or FFA kid.
Correct.
Um, and so that would be an ownership change. And so, yeah, but what is talked about, and I've said before, like we have to we have to have an electronic identification tag in our cattle. And I'm like, I kind of get that on the show calves because there are a bunch of cheaters and it's a weird deal. But and a number of people have said, well, this is they're training the youth to how to be forced into using these certain tags. You know, when you get told you have to do this, you just do it, right? And so I feel like this thing is more of just an indoctrination in training the youth.
It
Oh, here's
absolutely
you have
is.
to send your dollar in and make sure you send your dollar in and fill it out and send it in.
Yep.
It's more than about that than the actual money because it's like, I mean, they are greedy suckers too. There was a brochure a couple years ago that it went out and during COVID when everybody was selling these direct meat to consumer, and they were like, if you're taking your beef to locker, you better make sure you send us your dollar for your calf that go for your calf getting butchered at the locker. So yeah, they're just idiots too. But I like that it came out because it just shows who these people are. I mean, we've
Oh,
talked about who the
absolutely.
checkoff is for years, and for we know who they are, but it's hard to get at through some people's heads. And when this kind of stuff comes out, this is who these people are. So
Absolutely.
moving on. We got talked about. I think somebody got talked about on there's a podcast. I hate to. Should we not even say their name?
Don't
Let's
say their
just not
name.
say their name. There's an Angus podcast who came out. They interviewed Joe Goggins of Common Ground, or of as he's promoting this Common Ground Summit, and he talked about how all the online there was online people that were talking bad about him, which is Jack Payne, by the way. Like, uh, we'll say their name. It's Angus Underground. He wouldn't say somebody's name, but Jack Payne is the number one pot stirrer on the Common Ground.
Pain.
Hmm? Yeah.
He's the number
No,
one
he's not
pain.
Payne. He's the truth teller on what's going on because he deals with a lot of these people, and it's an LMA thing. And that goes into what was said on this podcast, which I wouldn't suggest listening to it, but whatever. But one thing that I feel like needs explained is he goes, how can anybody be against sustainability? And then he reads the definition of sustainability. So here's the thing. If you're in the cattle business
That wasn't
and
Joe Goggins that said that.
no, it was the
That was
host.
David Brown, the host.
Yeah, the host read the definition of sustainability as if it doesn't have new meanings now than anything other than in the dictionary. Because how can you be against sustainability? Here's the thing. The whole idea of sustainability that's being pushed into the cattle industry and agriculture as a whole comes from the United Nations. The United Nations have sustainability development goals. And that is what the exact same three pillars that the National Cattlemen's Beef Association has on their website. The Checkoff now has those same pillars and their number one source on their article, which I'm going to do more on this, but they have the Checkoff where they are forcing the 4-H and FFA kids to send their money and forcing everybody that produces cattle in the country to send their money. They wrote an article with these sustainability pillars which is straight out of the United Nations. And, and they gave footnotes. Their number one source for that article, United Nations. And just so we're clear, United Nations is the organization that funded and came out with the report of livestock's long shadow. I think it was 2006 or something like that. That is where the entire myth of cattle destroying the climate comes from. That's where everything kind of goes back to. And back in the day, people thought it was so stupid to blame climate change on cow farts and burps and all that stuff. And here we are, 20 years later, and we've got the National Cattlemen's Beef Association with a climate neutrality goal of 2040 and all this stuff. And if you're that guy who says, "Well, I don't understand why these cattle organizations can't get along with each other," it's well, how many cattle guys do you know that want a climate neutrality goal for the entire industry? I don't know a single one. But when NCBA comes out, their number one priority out of their convention 2021 is climate neutrality, and it's all based on the sustainability crap. I mean, at some point you just got to pull your head out of your ass because I don't know why you would. I mean, it's just obvious he wants to go along with the whole methane deal. I mean, I don't know that for sure, but I don't
Listen,
because I don't listen to it. But somebody sent me the podcast saying this guy's
listen.
talking about you. I don't know if he was talking about us or not, but I feel
I
like
don't
he
care if they
definitely
were
was talking
talking
about
about
Jack
us.
Payne.
I don't care if they were talking about us. There has to be an opposite reaction there. There has to be a different perspective to what they're doing. And I don't know this Joe Goggins. Never met him. I never will meet him. He has a whole different production methodology than I have. I'm just a yearling man. I certainly don't have $30 million in assets, and I'll never have that. But what I will tell you about these guys, especially this David Brown who hosted this podcast, and is apparently him and his wife, maybe her name is Sean. They, according to Facebook, have Western Management Consulting Company, whatever that is. I don't know, but he talks about sustainability and that word has been stolen, which I will agree with him. It has been stolen. But if he's either number one, he's either lying, or number two, he's so far behind in understanding what sustainable development is, he's lost. Because under the global agenda for sustainable livestock at the United Nations is sustainable development. And that is what all of these trade organizations, with the exception of a few, have adopted over the last 10 years. And they say, well, we don't know who is associated with what when we invited them to this meeting. But I will tell you this, Debbie Lyons Blythe out of Kansas was invited to that meeting, and she is directly responsible, partially or co-directly responsible for the adoption of the sustainable development policy in these trade organizations in the beef industry under the United States Roundtable for Sustainable Livestock, which comes right below the Global Roundtable for Sustainable Beef, right? And so they're either lying or they're very far behind on that because that's what this sustainable development model is. It's total control and it's all the same people. I know a couple of people that went to that meeting. One of them, super nice guy, totally entrenched in all of that stuff. And I really don't care what they say. I mean, they the five. So the controversy, what we're talking about here, is the sixth bullet point, which is sustainability. The five bullet points are great. Let's work on those. But to say that sustainability wasn't a part of that when Beef Magazine comes out and says it was, the Unity Summit says, or the Common Ground Summit says, no, it wasn't, and it doesn't mean what you think it means. You better get that cleared up in this day and age because that's a big, big deal to independent producers.
Yeah, and the whole common ground thing, I still am. Here we are. With the perfect thing is the Angus Association. They come out
Yep.
behind all of their members' backs,
Yep.
do this thing that none of their members wanted done, and here these common ground people are like, well, just put your name down. If you believe in the future of agriculture and they have all these platitudes and all this different stuff, just put your name down and go along with us. Go along with the NCBA past president, and all these people that were involved. This main guy who's a giant beef on dairy producer. All these people that we picked to come in and agree with our agenda, which we are still unsure what it actually is, which they say one thing and the past shows up different. But I mean, that's the other thing. Like when you're just begging for people, don't worry about it. Just put your name down. It's kind of like,
Read
wait,
it.
what?
We got to pass it to see what's in it. Is
Yeah.
basically what you're saying. But listen, the 5 bullet points are good. The vision is good. The actors in the vision, I don't know. That's the whole question. And so I was, we talked about this before, and I said, these are great points. I did tell you that I thought it was a meeting of the elitists. I still believe that, and that's fine. I don't have a problem with that. But when you get to this 6 bullet point, are they supporting that 6 bullet point of sustainable development and sustainability? If David would understand truly what he's talking about, they would have used viability. They would have used anything other than sustainability. But Beef Magazine pushed that out as bullet point number 6, sustainability. That has real meaning away from the dictionary through the United Nations under production and consumption control. Even the United Nations, under the 17 common goals, which I think is number 12, is responsible production and consumption. That is sustainable development. That's sustainability. That's their meaning. And it's not a coincidence that the American cattle and beef industry and their trade organizations that represent them adopted those policies years ago. That's not a coincidence. That's the real deal. So he's got to get that figured out. If he doesn't mean it under the United Nations global agenda for sustainable livestock meaning, he better use a different word. That's all I got to say.
Yeah. I mean, there was a lot of, I didn't listen to the whole thing, but pretty much everything he said, he's like, this is just a unaffiliated grassroots organization. This is the opposite of grassroots. You guys invited 40 people to a meeting and you came out with what 40 people decided on. I mean, that's not grassroots. And the organization is 100% LMA. The whole thing comes out of LMA, which is Livestock Marketing Association. And to say that they're not affiliated with any groups, I mean, LMA is I believe they're partnered in the Checkoff. I think they get some Checkoff money, but they're definitely affiliated with. You had the NCBA president there. You're affiliated with a group or a past president.
Well, the one thing I did get out of the whole podcast was that this David Brown, who's the host of Angus Underground, really, really, really loves Joe Goggins. So someday
Yeah,
I would like to meet
favorite
this
guy in
Joe.
the world.
I mean,
Yeah.
the most favorite guy in the
You
world.
might have to remove his nose from a certain area. I think the real lesson in all of this is don't put your name down behind anything unless you're 100% sure of what they're doing. I mean, all of these groups, we live in an age too where I believe you can call your senator right now. You can email them right now, and get their office and tell them what you want done. I don't know why they need all these names. If you're trying to create this coalition, why don't you get all the people and say, call your senator, call your representative, RCAF sets up these kind of things where it's like, okay, today we're going to do this and we're going to flood the lines with this issue, right? Instead of like, just put your name down, don't worry about it. I mean, it just goes into the Angus Association, NCBA, what we've dealt with for years. And we know people who are great people who just don't follow these issues like we do, and get involved in this kind of stuff. But they're, grandpa loved NCBA and they just fill out their form and send in their hundreds of dollars every year, not knowing who they're dealing with and what they're actually lobbying for in DC.
Well, I submit to you to go back to the fruits of where we're at. We have less people on ranches across the nation. How many less? A half to 700,000 less than we did in 1980. We have fewer cattle than we ever have before. We can't get anybody back into the business because the access to capital, which is something that they want to, touch on. But it's all in the fruit of where we're at. And so where were they at in the last 40 years when we were losing these ranches? Where was this leadership at? Where was this leadership at when we were paying our checkoff to the 4-H Foundation to make sure the checkoff gets their $80 million a year to push policy that has resulted in 800,000 or 700,000 less producers on the land and nobody able to come back? Where were they at then? We're playing defense. We're playing defense because we're so damn far behind that we're in trouble, right? and they're just now recognizing it. And then they partner up with people like the World Wildlife Fund and the Nature Conservancy, and they say, "Oh, this is going to be great," not understanding at the end of the day, those people end up with the land, or at least control of of what's produced off the land. It's We're in this position because of the lack of leadership over the
Right.
last 40 years.
But also, like, we're coming out of a time where people just joined organizations because that's what you needed to do to support your industry, right?
In
But I think people are
1986,
waking up.
well, in 1986, you joined the NCA because they did have your best route,
Right. They
best.
were a cattlemen's organization.
Exactly.
But this goes back to what it reminded me of. I've talked to a guy who works in Texas on policy for the cattle industry, and he said he's talked to a number of Texas Southwest cattle raisers people who swear to him that that organization is against mandated EIDs, which I don't know if they have policy against it, but I definitely would bet
Mm.
money that that organization is not against, the leadership is not
They're
against
in
mandated
they're in
EIDs.
lockstep with NCBA.
Yeah.
You want a Brook Rollins update real quick?
Yeah. Brooke Rollins update.
Let's do a Brook Rollins update. $0.9 million disaster assistance for farmers in Florida, and these are farmers who have been affected by hurricanes over the last several years, like Debbie, Helene, Milton. She signed this block grant agreement with the Florida Department of Agriculture. She said America's farmers and ranchers across the Southeast and in Florida have been hit hard and suffered significant economic losses during the last two hurricane seasons. USDA has worked closely with the state of Florida to ensure those impacted have the relief they need. The Trump administration has our farmers' backs and will ensure that they have the resources they need to continue to produce the safest, most reliable, and abundant food supply in the world. This is called the Supplemental Disaster Relief Program.
SDRP.
SDRP. Um, to date, there has been more than 1 billion in emergency livestock under that program, uh, and that's about it. I'm sure those farmers are really. It doesn't really say it is under the American Relief Act, but it doesn't say how much they are going to give these farmers, other than so far $7.8 billion in direct payments through that ECAP program. So it's not really saying how much these guys are going to get uh, out of that, but certainly a bunch. And then today, Secretary Rollins unveils the week-long celebration. We've talked about this, Jim, of American agriculture in what they're calling the Great American Farmers Market on the National Mall. And so I think they have 50 producers selling farm to table product from each state every single day of this week, uh, starts August 3rd. And so on the kickoff day, the this is what I get a kick out of. On the
They
kickoff
have,
day,
hold on a second.
yeah.
It's a different farmer's market every day from a different
Mhm.
state.
Yeah, so there'll be 50.
How do you get invited to that?
Well, they had a bunch of people, and you had
This,
to apply.
oh,
They
okay.
the July, I think middle July was the application deadline. Um, so it looks like on this one, they will bring 50 vendors in each day, representing 28 states across the country. So across 6 days, this Great American Farmers Market will host, like family-friendly programming and farm-to-table product, and just kind of teach the American people where their food comes from. So on August 3rd, the first day, it's called America Grows, 250 Years of Liberty and Agriculture.
Is there
This is
enough
pretty cool.
people? Who's gonna come? Like, I'm just wondering how you get
Have
in
you ever been
tested.
to the National Mall?
Yeah, in high school
Well, there's
on our school
thousands and
trips.
thousands and thousands
Oh,
of
so it's
people
just
on the National.
tourists
Yeah, it'll
coming
be
through.
tourists.
Okay.
And then Monday, August 4th, Make America Healthy Again. It's Mayhaw Monday. Tuesday, August 5th, Faith and Fellowship Tuesday. That's pretty cool. Wednesday, August 6th, Forests and Firefighters Protecting America's Legacy. So every day is themed. Thursday, August 7th, America the Beautiful Day. And then obviously on Friday, August 8th, is Farmer First Friday. So that will be kind of cool for our consumers. I'd like to run out there to that, but I'm not going to.
Yeah, we're big farm to table podcast from the farm. Shout out from the farm. Go to fromthefarm.com, I
Correct.
think, or org.
That's right.
I think it's .com. Anyway, do you see her wrestling the snakes?
I saw a picture of her last night with a snake around her neck, and I'm like, and I was in bed and I fell asleep, so I didn't. She in Florida, they are fighting. Those farmers and ranchers down there are fighting those snakes bad. These are, what are they? Boa
Pythons.
constrictors
I
that
thought
have
they were
been,
pythons.
yeah, pythons that have been let loose and bred in the wild, and we
Are they
have.
eating animals then?
I think they are a detriment to the natural ecosystem down there. Yes, I
They're
do,
just
because
causing a.
they breed so fast and they have so many eggs. And I mean, I have producer friends that have on Facebook that found their very first big python on their ranch last week.
Hmm. How'd you like to deal with that? You like snakes?
Heck no.
Um, we have been critical of the Trump. I guess our last couple podcasts we were critical of the bill, and but there, people have said, "Why don't you talk about the good things they did?" Which they was good things. Maybe that's just the direction we take. But when you see the bad things stuck in there, but like the end of the death tax, there was good things in that bill. And I see like Rollins, people are, some people are just so dead set. Like if you're not doing exactly what they want you fired or they want you out of there. And I just don't like that. I mean, I feel like she is on the side of the American farmer and rancher, independent
Well, I hope
American
so.
farmers and ranchers. She's probably getting pulled a million different directions.
Of course
But
she
I think
is.
like if you look back at the Maude case, which I talked to Charles Maude just this week and had a nice visit with him, and they're still dealing with with things, but I think it sounds like it's gotten cleared up somewhat since I've talked to him. Is that right or not? I don't know,
It
but
sounds like they've got a ways to go,
yeah,
but certainly there's some headway going forward and not backwards. The end of that needs to come, and it needs to come quickly. Hopefully, we have the end in sight. I am still helping them, along with other people, to get it done and over with. I still say this is the preeminent case that they have to finish this case up before they can move forward with the problems of a jillion other um, Americans who have suffered under the hands of bureaucrats in our federal government. So,
right, and
I agree with
that's the
you.
problem. That's what I was gonna say. Like
No,
between the
absolutely.
mods and Rollins, it's like independent farmer rancher. This ag secretary, they're on the same page, and there is a million bureaucrats in the middle trying to muck everything up. It seems like.
That's
Um,
what happens when we give them power they don't have, and when they steal the power they don't have.
right.
But they have been allowed to have that power for the last, even under, the first Trump administration. They did not know how much power they had taken during these off years.
Hmm.
When I say off years, I'm talking about conservative years, and they've gotten used to, almost indoctrinated into their thought process of having that power that they don't actually have. So we've got to get out of that mindset that they do have power over us, that we have power
Yeah.
over them, and that's what's most important.
Right on.
Keep going,
So
Brook Rollins. We support you. We've got a lot to go. We've got a lot to fix here, independently speaking.
yeah, and it's like I was telling my dad. My dad said something about who do they want the next another Tom Vilsack?
Yeah.
Like look,
No,
we just got rid of the worst ag secretary, and he'd been in there for what 12 years. Um, and so yeah.
Well,
Nothing but
listen, he was bad. He was really
the
bad.
worst. Have you
Sonny
seen?
Perdue was right up there with him. Sonny
Yeah,
Perdue did nothing for independent agriculture.
right,
And listen, I'm a conservative. I'm a Republican in my small hometown. I'm a registered Republican, but those people did nothing for the American Independent Family Ranch.
right, yeah. All right, and I mean, we talk about the mods. That was Vilsack who charged them. So, I mean,
Absolutely.
we have to, take what we can get. And,
Absolutely.
we're still only what, 6 months into this deal?
So I think we're almost exactly 6 months.
It was January 20th, and we're in the 23rd. 6 months and 3 days. Feel like doing pretty good. All right, man. Got anything else?
That's all on my end.
Been to any Coldplay concerts? What do you think about Coldplay?
Well, that has taken the internet by storm.
I've never seen anything like it. Hey,
I've
look at
never
these
seen it.
people's family exploding. Let's all laugh about it.
Well, it's terrible.
I know I do feel bad, but
But
it comes back to
it's a little comical because even the basketball games and all these things, everybody is kind of reliving it. But it is sad. I feel bad,
yeah,
but you know what? There is absolutely consequences for actions. If
yeah,
anything showed us, that's it, man.
yeah.
You can't hide in today's world.
I mean, they tried. That's straight out of a movie. Like
It
as
was,
hard as they tried to hide, which made it 10 times worse. Like if they would have
and
just stood there, nobody probably would even know. I mean, I suppose
their
it probably would
wives
have got out into
and
their
their husbands,
company
their
or whatever,
spouses.
but it wouldn't have been like them ducking
It
out.
was it was pretty dramatic, to be honest.
Yeah, alrighty.
That was funny.
All right. We ever
Well,
gonna see the Epstein files? That's the last thing.
no, we're not going to see the Epstein files. That's over with. Go on with life. The
Thomas
man is,
Massey's still trying.
God
Our
bless Thomas
guy.
Massey. God bless him. When are we going to have Thomas Massey on here? We need to have him on here.
All right. I don't know. Probably as soon as we start trying. At summertime, I've always said summertime's hard. Last year, I
It
went
is
like
hard.
a month or two without putting out any content. And Shad Sullivan and me got together and he's forcing me to do this every week. So now
Yeah.
we're doing it. We have something out at least once a week. But
You know what happened to me this week?
what
My
happened
little
to you?
boy turned 10 years old. It seems like yesterday he was just born. He weighed 11 pounds when he was born. And my life changed. And it changed for the good, but it changed for the more chaotic for sure. But we're going to go this weekend and we're going to have a little birthday party in Fort Worth for him.
Right
Just the
on.
family.
Happy birthday, Beatty.
Yeah, and good luck at the fair, man. Good luck at the fair.
Go to lonesomelands.com, click subscribe. I'm going to change that to sponsor because subscribe doesn't really describe what people are doing. And shout out to my sponsors from South Dakota stock growers. The Vigs, we've talked about on here before.
Hmm.
Bucky
Good
and
people.
Marty Joe Derflinger
Yep.
and Kathy and Wayne Fortune
What
sponsored me
about?
to come to South Dakota stock graders.
Oh,
Ryan
that's
and
awesome.
JT Vig also. They are the Vigs. So
That's awesome.
yeah, I know. Got to sit and eat dinner with them and their
That's
matriarch. I wish I could. I'm
she's
terrible
a
with
sweet.
names.
I've actually met her, and she's a sweet lady. And those are good people. All of them are. I sponsored myself to go to
Yeah.
CICA, but it was worth it because I got to go home and look at the cattle and go across the country and look at the grass. And man, what a blessed year we've had. Cattle are doing it all. Grass looks beautiful. Ranch looks beautiful. I'm so happy. So I couldn't be any more blessed.
Beatty got time with grandma.
Beatty got a week with grandma, much to his mother's dismay. She was ready for him to come home. He had a great time. Uh, his aunts and my mom, they spoil him, and I'm glad they do. But it was a great week. So, yeah,
All
moving
righty,
on.
man. See everybody next week.
Adios.